He is a 9/11 survivor, the last person out of the World Trade Center North Tower. Well, on September 11th, William Rodríguez saved an estimated hundreds of people from the World Trade Center after putting his own life on the line. He then became trapped under the debris from the tower for hours before rescuers managed to free him from the rubble. And here with us now to share his really amazing story is William Rodríguez. William, is it William, Bill, which do you prefer?
Maria, for you is Willie.
Thanks, Willie. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. We really appreciate it. Why don't you tell me what happened on that dark day?
Well, basically, we are doing a presentation. It's a story of hope, expectation, motivation, and disposition of what the human spirit can do in a moment of despair. I worked in the building for 20 years. I was the person in charge of all the stairwells of the North Tower. And on 9/11, I had the only master key that opened the doors that rescue people. This is the master key. They call it the key of hope. And basically, I was a janitor. Like I said, on that day, there was an explosion on the basement. And this is prior to the building got hit by the plane. And then the plane hit, and then there was a series of explosions afterwards. And a person comes running into the office saying, explosion, explosion, explosion. His skin was pulled all from his armpits all the way to the top of the fingertips, and pieces missing off his face. And then it was total chaos. I started putting people outside the building and went back inside 3 times, basically rescuing people from the basement. And then at the third time, I just went with the master key and I started opening the doors for the fire department so they could actually help people to escape from the stairwells. At the very last moment, there was a person on a wheelchair that needed to be basically given first aid. As I brought him down, the building started to collapse. Actually, I got him to the lobby. When I put him on the lobby, I went to set up an ambulance, and the building started to collapse. And I saw a fire truck, and I slid right under the fire truck, and the building basically buried me. And I survived under the rubble. Everybody else died.
Oh, my God. I don't even really know where to go after that.
It's a very emotional event, but after 9/11, I became an activist, a leader for the victims. I created the Hispanic Victims Group and the Victim Support Group, and basically took it up to task to become basically addicted to helping, because there's such an addiction. And I started working on basically every legislation and every program available to help the victims during that time.
Willie, have you met any of those people who you helped rescue, whose lives you saved?
Yes, I actually met so many of the people. There were many encounters done for national television. The thing is that most of those encounters were done for the Latino news, Univision Network International, Telemundo Network National, and they were basically shown all over the world, but basically most of the stories, the big stories, were not actually presented to the national media here in the United States. Well, but yes, I have met them.
You just presented your story so incredibly. You've been to the White House 5 times. You've been honored by the president, President Bush. You've met Hillary Clinton. That must have been quite an honor for you.
It was an experience, definitely. And at that time, I was basically loaded to go into politics, because they said this is the guy that we need to get the Latino vote. And I was playing the whole game of politics because I was doing the activism. And until the moment that I started to ask questions about what really happened on 9/11. And you may remember the whole thing about the 9/11 Commission to be formed, and basically became very active to get it basically started. And what a surprise. I was one of the persons that testified for the 9/11 Commission, and my testimony doesn't appear on the final report.
Willie, I could talk to you until 11 o'clock tonight when we go off the air, but we unfortunately have to wrap it up. So will you be going into politics, or are you just here? I think people are maybe wondering, you're just here because you'd like to share your story.
Basically, what I'm doing is telling the people what really happened on 9/11, because there's a lot of disinformation about what happened. And number 2, because we wanted to call people to do an outreach for the victims that are still suffering. The first responders, as you know, are still dying. We're talking about 60,000 people dying.
You're absolutely right. If you're interested in hearing more of Willie's amazing story, he's actually going to be speaking tonight at the International Community Church in Alston at 7 o'clock. Willie, to us, thank you. Rodríguez, thanks so much for being here. And what an honor it was to speak with you.
What a pleasure for me to speak with you.
Thanks, Willie.
Willie, thank you so much. Up next at 5:30.